Good morning, everybody watching live. It is daylight saving times morning, Blades in the Dark. For those of you watching the recording, you're lucky enough not to be up as early as everybody here is to do this. Well, not everybody. We've got our European guests, of course, are just like, oh, this is nice. This is the afternoon as opposed to a middle of the frickin' night. But anywho, we've got a lot of fun going on. So very quick, we're playing Blades in the Dark. This is John Harper's game. And on my podcast, if you have not heard it yet, I do have an interview with John Harper, so make sure you catch that. But we need to get caught up. We are on our 5th session, so I am going to jump over to our good friend Joe. Joe, how are you, sir?
I am doing great. I am not usually a morning person, so we'll see how this goes.
So, Joe, I know we've got a lot of new viewers since last time, so do you mind kind of giving us a sense of who we are and where we are?
Yeah, so we are in the world of Blades of the Dark. We are a crew of criminals, scoundrels, many thesaurus-related words that could describe what we are. In the kind of setting, we are essentially a crew of shadows, which are thieves, spies, and saboteurs. Our crew name is the Umbral Means, and the, I guess, core concept of our crew is that we are untraceable. If we do a job, we are not known to be doing that job. Now, as anyone who's played an RPG before will know, plans are always ruined almost immediately. So our first job that we did was to acquire some blackmail material for the sister of one of our contacts. And we rocked up to a very influential guy's house, basically did a Three Stooges routine, while one of us broke into a safe that was guarded by 2 spooky people and a spooky series of roots. Our second job was to ensure that a local smuggling group wasn't going to be trading with a particular business owner so that we could get their rival on our side. More spookiness abounded when a witch showed up and was somewhat put out by our general practices. And thankfully, we managed to negotiate a way to not all be murdered by ghosts.
Yeah, the way you got out of that one was very unique. I think that was session 3 for those of you that haven't gone back to YouTube and watched them.
And our most recent adventure was fixing a ghost fight. So we had recently found out about a ghost fight club to various members of the crew, probably specifically Reagan. That's not a thing that we would like to have in the world. So we wanted to screw it up and maybe get some turf out of alleviating the billhooks from this particular building. When we got there, we were all very suave and everything worked perfectly well up until the point that someone realized that they were looking for lies. And we nearly got thrown out, but instead we were just saddled with a large man. We were VIPs. It was great. So after possessing him, we went down to the fights and we determined that, they're just in very elaborate ghost cosplay rather than ghosts having a boxing match. So we incited a riot, and everything worked out great, except we didn't manage to negotiate that as a new business opportunity, but we did get some money, I guess.
Yep. So very quickly, before we jump to everybody else, let's quickly introduce Reagan with a couple sentences, and then we're going to go over and we'll talk to Roman.
Yeah, so Reagan Devereaux is the Whisper, which is sort of the spooky magic class. She is very empathetic towards ghosts and less good with people.
All right, so let's hop over and let's talk to our resident spider. Roman, how are you, sir?
I'm doing all right, Craig. How about you?
Good. So let's quickly give people a sense of who Galen is.
Galen Blackthorn, lamplighter when he's working, is a he's a relic of the war as a double agent for both sides, and nobody's really quite sure where he started on that one. But it's led to him having a lot of contacts and a lot of ability to talk to people and disseminate information where he needs it. So he is mostly the information gatherer and heat remover. Whenever the jobs go wrong, he goes, "No, no, no, that wasn't the Emperor means. Who are you talking about? They're nothing. It's these guys," and that's really what he does a lot of the time.
So how did Galen feel about the effectiveness of last job?
He was once it was revealed that they were not actually having a ghost fight, he felt a lot better about it because spooky is not his bag. Uh, but he's not so happy about the fact that we didn't get the turf.
Yeah.
But he's used to things not going the way as expected from his past. So one door closes, another window gets broken into.
That's great. All right, let's go over and let's talk to Nick. Nick, good morning, sir.
Good morning.
So, how do we best describe Elias?
Yeah, Elias. Well, being a hound, he's the tracker. He's the hunter. He doesn't like to be in the mix of things. He likes to be kind of far away. Even though he's been kind of in the mix of things a lot in our sessions, but been able to overcome quite a bit by dang near maxing out our stress. So, but overall, he's a younger kid. His father was a machinist, and he's kind of worked in his dad's machine shop, building weapons and cogs and gears and God knows what else in this world. And so he's an interesting guy. I'm excited to continue to explore him and his background.
So Nick, I'm gonna turn you into a salesman real quick. So for those watching right now, who have never played Blades in the Dark, why should they? What is your favorite thing about playing Blades?
Improv, in my opinion. I'm new to RPGs in general, and the few RPGs I've played, it's been like you kind of mentioned. You spend an exorbitant amount of time watching all these min-maxers figure out the best approach to walk into a cave. This is Craig deciding based off of a roll. Here you go, guys. Figure it out, and it's like, oh shit, okay, cool. You're making decisions on the fly, and then somebody has that aha bright moment of doing something, and you just roll with it.
Yeah.
And I love that. This fits my personality, and perfectly in this world is fantastic. I've never been a sword and sorcery kind of guy. This steampunk,
it's kind of cool.
It's amazing. Yeah, I love it.
All right, so let's hop over and let's talk to our leech. Vaslev, how are you, sir?
Hi, I'm good. Thanks for asking. So Cornelius Croft, aka Dallas, he's originally from island of Iruvia, and he was a trader there, and that's what was his main interest. And in that there he was able to get his hands on various magical trinkets and get more closer to some, let's say, astral nature of this world, and he got interested more and more into ghosts. And where is the best place to get more information about ghosts and how everything works? Well, it's Duskwall.
Yeah.
So by learning how to work with some specific trinkets he learned how to change the things to be able to, I would not say work with ghosts, but make them change their opinion one way or another, at least. And this is his way to get closer to them, and he managed to get closer to a group that can stay hidden from everyone, so nobody knows that it's us, we're doing something, and he uses that opportunity to get his interests in as well.
That's exactly right. All right, so just so very briefly for the setting, for those of you that are not familiar, Duskwall, I want you to imagine London or Prague right during the beginning of the Industrial Revolution. Touchstones that are often talked about are Dishonored, the video game, Thief, the video game, or Peaky Blinders, I think is a great touchstone for this game. It is a game where the mechanics are perfect for play. They match the tone and they reinforce everything. So let's try that again. What we're going to do today is something that is pretty unique about Blades in the Dark, and that is the concept of downtime. So in other RPGs, you have downtime, right? You finish the dungeon and, say I'm going to go back to the village and I'm going to, buy a new sword and, do this and do that. In Blades in the Dark, downtime is actually part of the game, and it's mechanically reinforced, and you guys and gals are going to get a chance to see that in action. So let's go ahead and let's hop over and discuss where we are. So let's go to downtime. So let's switch us over to downtime, and let's bring my players with me, which I know sounds crazy. And essentially during downtime, you have the ability to do 2 actions. Then we go through and we roll to figure out how those actions work, and we do some role playing on it. And then when we finish downtime, we are going to figure out what our next score is going to be. And then depending on how we go, we might even start that score. So looking here at our team, you can see these red bars that I have up top. So let me actually make that a little bit more visible. That's a measure of their strain or their stress. It's a resource in the game. It's used to get benefits as they play. And needless to say, the last score was very, very stressful. If you reach your max stress, you are taken out of the score. You are out of commission. And as you can see, all 4 of our Umbral Means crew are struggling with that. So I would like to start with our first downtime action. So I want to imagine they get back from the Vale Riot, which was the Ghost Fight Club, and everybody is pretty strung out. It was a partial success. The goal of shutting it down worked, but the Umbral Means really wanted to take it over, and unfortunately just weren't able to. So let's start with Reagan. Reagan, what do you think your first downtime activity is going to be?
Well, I feel like a lot of people are going to be doing the reduce stress, because that is the smart thing to do at this point. So I'm actually going to start things off with working on my long-term project, just to stagger things out and get a little bit more interest in these little downtime actions.
All right. So let's talk about your long-term project. Actually, you've got 2 of them.
I do have 2. So one of them as a whisper, and the move that I started with, I can craft various arcane rituals to do fun and interesting things. With blades being as sort of like general and like with a lot of player agency into what your roles actually mean, the ritual is a really interesting mechanic to basically craft. I tell Craig what I want this ritual to do. He asks me, he tells me like what the kind of costs and the necessary equipment I need, so I can basically do anything within reason.
Yep.
So the ritual that I'm working on right now is actually to kind of coincide with our Untraceable, and it's basically the Men in Black mind wipe for the various crimes we're doing. That's not what I'm going to be working on today. Hopefully I'll get around to that. What I'm actually working on is the Dimmer Research long-term project. So in our second score, we came across one of the Dimmer sisters, and part of the negotiation to have us not all murdered by a construct piloted by a spirit was that we would start making some reparations. And part of the reparations that Reagan wanted to do was to supply them with research. And to kind of get around to that, I needed to actually find out things that the Dimmer sisters don't really know too much about. So that's what this project
Well,
is.
good. So let's do the long-term project action. The project goal is to research things that the Dimmer sisters will find valuable. And really, your relationship with the Dimmer sisters kind of depends on this. The way you got out of the score before last is by making a promise that you would, if they can give you a little bit of time, that you're going to be able to give them something that they're not aware of or they don't know about. So do we have a sense yet exactly what Reagan's researching or what she's trying to figure out?
I feel like it would be something that is that's going to be terrible and would probably come back to bite us, because I think that's interesting. And I also think that with it being a long-term project, I feel like it's something that Reagan hasn't really looked into. So it's nothing to do with like spirits. I feel like it is something to do with demons.
Ooh, interesting.
So there are a couple types of demons in this world. There are the Leviathans, that the blood of which powers most of the city's electrical, all of the electrical implements within the city. And then there are also slightly more humanoid demons that wander around and make deals with people. So I feel like what I want to do for this is looking into a way, or either a way, or even like going through like the history of the world to look at demons' true names.
Oh, okay. Very nice. Which I would imagine the Dimmer sisters would find incredibly valuable.
That's the hope.
All right. So let's go ahead and let's take care of that. So for their long-term project, the first thing that Reagan will have to do is explain to me which role or which action Reagan's going to do this research. So have you decided on that, Joe?
Yeah, it's going to be study. I feel like that's the most appropriate.
Perfect. So now that we know it's going to be study, we're going to go ahead and do that roll. And depending on what is rolled, and we're going to take the highest of any dice rolled, that'll determine how many segments of the clock are done. And if you remember, and I'll bring it up here real quick. Whoops. If we look at Reagan's sheet and look at Reagan's long-term projects, you're halfway there. So you've only got 3 more segments in order to finish this research out. So let's do the roll and let's talk about what happens. So I am ready for a study roll from Reagan.
Cute.
What do you have in study, out of curiosity?
2.
All right, so he'll be rolling 2 dice, and we'll see which is the higher of the 2. So for those who have not watched the last session, this crew has been on a 6 train. So keep hitting 6s. So you can see 6 allows us to get 3 segments, which if we go to Reagan's sheet, and Reagan, you can go ahead and fill it out. We have a completed long-term project.
2 sessions. That's a long-term project.
Yeah, no kidding. So where did Reagan go to do this research?
So she has been doing a little bit on her own, and that's kind of what the initial 6 is just like kind of pulling from her own like world experience and what little like occult books she actually has. We've seen her before kind of be working on working through like a little notebook that she has. I feel like when we cut to her like making this decision to move on, like that has just kind of exploded. Like she's found like a full chalkboard somewhere and like wheeled it into the lair, and is just it looks full like Charlie Day conspiracy theory, but with like arcade sigils and like weird demonology sketches. For this second part, she is going to sort of be like enlisting some help. Now, she does have a contact that is in a similar space to her, but is much more like trained. Reagan is, I keep thinking her as like, she is occult jazz. She's like figuring it out. It doesn't all like make sense within rules, but somehow we make it happen. So she has a contact that she is going to be getting in contact with to kind of pull from her experience. So there's a big list of contacts that we have. This particular contact is not a friend. This is a sort of neutral relationship, just someone that I know, mostly because it's a former relationship, former lover, that Reagan was not in the best place to be in a relationship, and things kind of fell apart. So I'm kind of going to be asking around with Quellen.
So, what did we discover? What do you have now that you need to approach the Dimmer Sisters with?
So it's not that she found a bunch of like, here's a bunch of demon names. It's more that there is now this sort of unlocked to her is like this very old ways process of acquiring a demon's name. I feel like to kind of go into like the field of the deals and the kind of nature of demons, like it all takes place with like paper, specific ink, magical legalese, and blood, because that feels right. It's almost like a sort of process of knowing the face of a demon.
Okay.
And then going through describing their nature, their appearance, their interests. So there's a little bit of legwork that you need to do, but the kind of like ink will kind of spider out and like pull into what this demon's name is.
So we've got the parchment, right? So Reagan has now got this parchment. How are we going to reach out to the Dimmer Sisters? How are we passing this information along?
I feel like they do just have a brownstone, so I feel like I'm just gonna go.
All right. So we cut to Reagan in the middle of the night, walking through the streets of Duskfall, and the Dimmer Sisters are located in Night Market, and we see Reagan walking up, and of course it's raining, as it always is in Duskfall, and they don't really have a brownstone. If we're going to the Dimmer Sisters have something you don't see very often in Duskfall. They have essentially a mansion in the very northwest part of Night Market. And as Reagan approaches, he can see this mansion, and I want you to picture really like the Addams Family mansion. So completed gated area. There really isn't a courtyard per se, but there's once you get through the gates, you can see long steps leading up, and the door. And just this ominous mansion in the middle of Night Market. And what's really odd about this mansion is it is striking, and it stands out within the overall landscape of not only Night Market but the rest of Duskfall. But what's odd is when you're going to the Dimmer Sisters' home, you immediately have no trouble finding it because it stands out like a sore thumb. What's really odd, though, is that if you're not looking for it, you just walk by it, and you don't even really seem to notice it somehow. Just somehow it magically just blends in with the rest, and it's not that you don't see it, but for whatever reason you don't recognize it, and you just continue on. And, you know, there's been times where, there was a time in Reagan's life where, you know, people were like, you know, we need you to go over and let's maybe while you were with the Bluecoats and check out the Dimmer Sister mansion. And Reagan back then was just like, the what? They're like, it's a Night Market. It's the mansion in Night Market. And Reagan's like, what? And they give Reagan the address, and Reagan went over there and was like, how did I never notice this?
Yeah.
So you're at the front door.
Yeah, so we kind of see like Reagan like did this whole breakthrough. Like she's still like fully stressed, so that we see like bags under her eyes, like she's like shaking a little bit. But she has like whatever she's sort of storing this in. I feel like she might be a bit extra and might have like sprung for a very like elaborate chest, just for the full presentation, and then there's this little moment of like something crosses her face of just like, do I really want to hand this over? And then the kind of rational part sort of kicks in of like, this is going to keep the rest of them safe. I'm doing this. And I will knock on the door, ring the bell, like I kind of have this vision of a very elaborate, like horrific looking door knocker.
Yeah, there's a very elaborate door knocker on here, and the door to the mansion is roughly about 8 foot tall, so it's a large door. But just like everything else about this mansion, your understanding of it is distorted. So you come up the steps. Reagan comes up the step, and she's standing at the front thing, and she sees the door, and she looks up, knowing how tall the door is, but it seems to loom over Reagan, and it's imposing. It's not moving her, it's just a feeling. Excuse me. Kung, kung, kung. Reagan knocks on the door. There's a moment. Just a little slide in the door that wasn't noticeable before opens up. And you look and you can see there's somebody there. It appears to be very pale-skinned. You're guessing male. You're guessing a man, but it's not real clear. What's very odd is either whatever this is has very large pupils or just black eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Less of an appointment, but I do have some things that I believe the sisters would like to see. My name is Reagan, if that helps.
Is there somebody in particular you're looking for?
I suppose Night Scare. She would know me best.
River Scare? One moment.
River Scare.
Window closes. You hear a latching from behind. Click, click, click. And you know the door must have opened. But suddenly you're just inside. Suddenly you find yourself in this lobby. And you hear the door closing behind you, but you don't remember walking through it. You don't remember the door opening. Suddenly you're now in this elaborate lobby with a very large staircase in front of it. And there's somebody very familiar there. So for those that don't know Miss River Scare, we have met her before. Coming down the steps, a woman comes down, and her movements, at first she just seems so elegant. The way that she moves down, and almost like a model with a stiff back and her head and chin up, could easily be balancing a teacup on the top of her head. And as she's come down, a little bit of nervousness and uneasiness comes about. Even Reagan, who's very familiar with the supernatural here in Duskfall. Excuse me. Right before River Scare makes it to the bottom, Reagan looks a little bit closer and begins to question whether she's even been touching the steps as she's been coming down, or maybe this elegance about the way that she moves has to do with the fact that she's not even touching the ground. So she comes down and she looks at Reagan, looks her up and down.
So good to see you.
Well, it is a pleasure. I am sorry for the late hour, but I thought it was better to get this done rather than have you wait any longer.
It's my understanding from my valet that you have something for me.
Yes, I took a little bit of compiling, but
And almost for the first time for like coming in the house, like Reagan realized that she's holding like this big like chest, and just kind of flinches a little bit and like,
do you have somewhere I can place this?
By all means, I'll take it.
She reaches her hands out.
yep, hand it off.
So you can see her looking at it, and you see her reach to open, right? And then again, your mind fogs, and you come back, and
Miss Reagan, this will do nicely. I am happy that the arrangement we made is complete?
Well, I'm glad it was to your liking.
So again, somewhat disorienting, Reagan finds herself back on the front steps again. Here's the door closing, so you know you're coming in and out of this door, but it's not real clear, Reagan, how and when Reagan is making that happen. Whether you're slipping time, you don't know what the hell's going on, but it's over. And so what we'll do is we will upgrade your relationship with the Dimmer sisters. This did as promised, Reagan, and congratulations on completing your first long-term project.
You did it.
All right, so let's go clockwise. So let's talk about Cornelius. Cornelius, what is your first downtime action?
Oh, Joe set the bar really high. It will be tough now to follow up on that one. Okay, I was thinking, like, story-wise, I might need to combine, like, 2 actions as a continuous one. So I will do the first one as a straightforward one, and the next one we will see how it can go. Because the first one, I would like to hopefully finish also my long-term projects that, depending on how it goes, I should be able to finish it and then do a follow-up on that one.
Right,
so I was
Yeah, I'm going to bring up the sheet for everybody so they can see it. So your long-term project is almost done. So it was a six clock. You got 5 of the pieces filled. What is crafting Ghost Scourge?
So Ghost Scourge is an item. Basically, it would be a chain connected to a spirit bottle, and I would be able to trap a ghost or a spirit. And this is my intention, basically, to get more closer to the ghosts, because I can't do like talk to the ghosts like Joe can or Joe's characters can. So I will use some tools to help me to do so. And because I'm interested in how what is the ghost's motivation, what are they doing here, why they are doing what they're doing. So this would be my way to get them to talk. Maybe not the most pleasant way for the ghost, but this is the way I should do it. So I have my
Where does Cornelius do this? So if you're going to be working on constructing this, where does that happen?
So basically, I believe we had like the shop in our library hideout, which was basically one table that we were sharing. So O was improving his rifle there, and then we put it out of the table, and I put my alchemist vials and everything in there. So it would be directly in the library, in our hideout. The thing is, like, most of the work around it is to get the items, to get them in. Here I'm trying to use my trading skills to get what I need and know the people that could have what I need for the preparation. And then I go back in and I put the things together, trying with experimentation and trying to see how I can achieve my goal.
Well, it's impossible for you not to finish this. But let's go ahead and do the roll anyway. What action are we going to use?
For this one, it is a Tinker.
All right. What do you have in Tinker?
I have 2.
All right. So let's go ahead and roll Tinker.
Position and effect doesn't
matter for this. Yep. All right. So we got a 3, which gives us the 1 slot left in the clock. So finish off that segment and describe to me what it looks like when Cornelius finally finishes this project.
So basically, it was supposed to be original vial connected to a chain, but after more experimentation, it seems that Cornelius needs a larger vessel. He's not able to easily make a small vial that he could put behind his belt, which would even reflect that I can use it only twice. When I was first started to craft this, I had then I call it disadvantage, but I rolled like 4, so this was the trade-off. It will have only 2 uses, this Ghost Scourge, which is enough for the intention that Talos has. But it's I would not call it a bucket, but maybe some larger vessel, and you can still hold it with your both hands, but you are not able to easily run around with it, basically. Or
Excellent.
If you put it in your huge bags, but it can safely hold the ghost if I prepare the vial and the ritual for it.
All right, so congratulations. You got a new piece of equipment for your next score. Let's see whether you're going to need it or not. Let's jump over to Galen. So, Galen, what is going to be your first downtime action?
Well, while everybody else is starting on their actual downtime, Galen knows for him the job is not yet done, so he has to head off to his usual round of the pubs and places where people talk of unsavory things and spread some misinformation to reduce the heat.
All right. Currently, how much heat does the Umbral Means have?
We got away with 4 on that one since we were able to make it not apparently our fault that the riot happened.
Yep, I'm showing you with 4 heat. So mechanically, in order to reduce heat, we're going to decide how you're going to do that. So what action are you going to use to reduce the heat?
I mean, he's going to stick with his usual, I'm chit-chatting at the bars and going, oh yeah, did you hear about the problem the Billhooks had at their illegal, totally fake ghost fighting ring that was so slapdash that the random people in the stands felt that it was fake and figured out that the Billhooks were pulling the wool over their eyes. So he's going to consort that total truth around to everyone he's speaking with.
So what's really funny to me about the relationships that you guys have had, you guys have skirted the Billhooks, I think, from the very beginning. You have been a thorn in their side, but we've yet to have a real direct confrontation with the Billhooks. I smell that coming.
Yep.
Because you seem to be offloading onto them. But keeping to your untraceable reputation, I don't know if the Billhooks have quite figured out exactly who the Umbral Means are and what the hell they've been doing. So let's go ahead and do our consort roll, and based on that consort roll, we're going to go ahead and reduce the heat.
Alrighty. So I have 2 in this. Come on, there we go. And I am also connected, so whatever I roll will be 1 status higher, 1 result level higher.
So it goes from a 5 up to a 6. So that's going to reduce the heat by 3. That's going to leave the Umbral Means only with 1 heat. So well done, Galen. We see Galen do his rounds, as we talked about. Galen goes from pub to social club and just migrates around, somehow injects himself into conversations that he wasn't a part of at the beginning, but suddenly becomes the center of the conversation and passes ideas and rumors and thoughts. And people within different parts of Duskfall in these pubs and in these social clubs have really started to rely on Galen to give them a little bit of information, a wiggle here and a wiggle there. And Galen does an amazing job of telling 2 truths and a lie, which somehow sandwiches this and allows him to really make the Umbral Means not nearly as traceable as they probably should be at this point. So well done, Galen. Well done. Continuing down, we're going to go to Elias's first action. So what is Elias doing these days?
Well, Elias, he blew his wad again. In the last session, he seems to be back and forth. So I think I need to indulge some vice, try to get my stress levels down. So I'm going to kind of check in with good old Pops, my dad, and kind of talk to him about the recent events and what has happened to try to detension what's happened over the last session.
Yeah, so a neat mechanic here is the Indulge Vice mechanic, which is the way for an individual character to drop their stress level. And the idea is that everybody in Duskfall has a vice, a way that they decompress. And it can be as innocent as spending time with a family member, which is Elias's vice purveyor, is his father. And Elias has always found comfort and relaxation connecting with his father. His father's old now, he's retired, and loves it when his son comes and maybe brings a bottle of whiskey or maybe a small tankard of wine and talk about old times, talk about new times. He's very proud of his son. He's proud of what his son has become. His son has done an amazing job of not being a laborer like he was, and has really found his own place in the world. I don't get a sense that Elias's father knows exactly what Elias does, and I don't think Elias exactly tells him what he does, but he knows he doesn't come over with grease stains and dirt under his fingernails, which I think makes his father happy. So we're going to indulge your vice, and to do that, we're going to roll based off of your lowest of your attributes. So let's take a quick look at your sheet, and you can see here's all of the actions that the characters have, and each of them are grouped. Hey, McBluff, thanks for coming by. Each of them are grouped into basically 3 attributes: insight, prowess, and resolve. And right now, Elias has 3 in insight. So you can see, even though he's got 2 in hunt, 1 in tinker, and 1 in survey, he's only got 3 in insight, 3 out of the 4. He's got 2 in prowess and 1 in resolve. So we're going to do this as a resolve roll. And this is going to be indulging your vice, and it's going to ultimately end up being 1 die.
Okay.
All right, so that is going to drop your stress by 3. So that takes you down to 5 of 9. You arrive, you sit down with your father, and this happens sometimes where Dad has a couple drinks, and what starts off as innocent conversations about the politics of Duskville and old times ends up coming into a discussion or a thorny issue that gets you agitated, gets your father agitated. I'd be curious to know, thinking about the history of you and your dad, what is a subject that maybe somehow your father can drift into and doesn't reduce your stress nearly as much as you had hoped if you'd kept things light?
Yeah. So part of the history with his dad is his dad was kind of forced into semi-retirement due to basically a hired hit on him that was failed and caused him to be disabled. He's not unable to walk as well as he used to, and has affected his motor functions with his hands, and he's just not the same since then. And the angst and the hatred he has for some of his old clients that has brought him to this state in his life. He eventually, I didn't get him drunk enough to veer away from that subject, but it's like politics at the family dinner. It eventually is going to come up, and everybody's going to be pissed off at each other. It's one of those things where it just happened. It naturally headed that direction.
All right, so let's cut back to Reagan. Reagan of walking through the streets of Duskville after a very odd interaction at the Dimmer Sister Mansion, and Reagan needs to start thinking about what's next.
Yeah. So next up, I'm going to indulge my vice. We'll get to that. I would like to, if we can, if Roman is amenable to it, I would like to seek out a Galen.
Bring it on.
All right, so where are you going to connect with Galen?
I feel like it's I know his general rounds. So like Reagan will show up at one of the many pubs and kind of do the awkward walk into a pub. Nope, no one's here. Just leave. And finds Galen.
So Reagan does the easy thing, which is to hit some of the pubs, which Reagan doesn't feel very comfortable there, I don't think. But is hoping, and you go to the pubs that you know are in Galen's orbit, and you're not finding it, which means that Galen must be at one of the private clubs, one of the private social clubs. And I imagine Reagan walking up and to the door and coming into the kind of this sitting room. And the person that's in charge of deciding who can come in and come out approaches Reagan. There's an awkward interaction where Reagan is trying to explain without explaining anything why Reagan's there. But Galen catches Reagan's eye, and luckily Galen is able to quickly come in, intervene, and make it very clear that Reagan is with him. So how are we going to indulge our vice now that you and Galen are here in the social club?
Yeah. I feel like we kind of get set up. Reagan has like a drink that she's not touching. She's just kind of like, now that she's found Galen and like this is a conversation that she wants to have. It's like just full bore straight into it. So just so you are aware, the dimmer sister thing is less of a thing now. So I've worked on that. I had a thought, because I feel like with a relationship burgeoning between us and them, that things may wander into a territory that I sense you are not thrilled about.
Whatever gave you that idea?
Your general aversion to the spectral realm, the stress that was...
That was a joke.
Right, that is a thing. So, I was thinking I could show you another side of it. A less risky side.
Galen definitely, like, he considers that. He mulls that around in his head for a minute. Orders another stout in the meantime. And, like, there's a lot of mechanisms in the back of his head going on this, and ultimately comes down on he trusts Reagan, and especially in the realm of the spooky, Reagan is the one person he's really come across anytime recently that makes the spooky palatable at all. And he so's name the time and place.
She kind of looks around. Well, not here. Unless... No, that could get too weird. I have a place in CrossFit that I do this normally.
Let's go.
All right, so the camera cuts to the location. So what are we seeing, Reagan?
Yeah, so we've seen this scene before. It's like an old rundown school in like a very poor and like crime-filled area. So it's all completely in ruin. Like all of the everything that wasn't nailed down has been removed. So there's just like bare, dusty floors that have very clearly seen regular single traffic. And there's like a section in a classroom that almost has like burn marks in a very specific pattern. And Reagan just kind of starts making her way over to this corner and says, I thought this would also be a little bit of payback for you taking me to terrible places.
All right, so what's the action roll we're going to do to indulge the vice? We're going to, you're going to do your lowest attribute. What is your lowest attribute?
My lowest attribute is prowess.
Okay.
Which, sure, I guess for what we're doing.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, this is where the mechanics come in. You know, the idea of this is that it tries to encourage the characters to diversify. So if we look at Reagan, and we look at Reagan's sheet, you can see prowess, we only have 1 dot, even though there's 2 in prowl itself. But we've got 2 in insight and 2 in resolve. So at some point from an XP perspective, if Reagan is able to pick up a rank in finesse, skirmish, or wreck, you then would have 2 dice every time you indulge your vice, which is a good thing. But in this case, we're going to go ahead and roll prowess for our indulgence. I was showing all of that not on the screen, so sorry about that. Let's go back to the screen where you can actually see. So let me just quickly again show Reagan's sheet. This is what I was talking about. You can see we only have 1 pip within prowess itself. All right, let's give it a prowess roll for our indulge vice. All right, so that is going to reduce your stress by 4. So reasonably successful. What happens?
So Reagan slips on this mask that we have seen before, but if you're new, it looks like a pale white wood mask that kind of curls into horns. Everything about like the makeup of it makes it look like it is naturally occurring, not crafted, and has like black spots kind of detailing around the eyes. And she is laying out things like salt, sand, like iron powder, all of these arcane implements, and placing essentially like it looks like a large metal tube about the size of a loaf of bread that is glowing with this kind of electric blue, and she places it in the center and switches a release on it, and a crackling electrical form arises from it and then clarifies into a woman's form. Now, this isn't Nyrix. I feel like showing Galen Nyrix, that's not gonna go over well. This is the current spirit that Reagan is speaking with. The vice Indulging is Reagan is essentially giving ghosts therapy. There is a concept in Blades of the Dark that there are reconciled ghosts that aren't like malevolent and hungry. They just exist and have like a semblance of who they were in life. That's actually part of Reagan's initial ritual as a way to indulge this vice. So this is someone that she has spoken with before. She ran into a lot of roadblocks with this woman and has like acquired some additional information about the circumstances of her death. But the kind of scene we have as this form clarifies into the woman's form is Reagan just looking up and saying, "I commit myself to your reconciliation. While you consent to this incantation, you have my ear and my compassion. For this, I will ask for nothing in return, but will not deny an offered courtesy. Now, what is the source of your anger?"
So we see the play, this kind of plan out in a bit of a montage. We see conversations. We can't really hear the conversations between Reagan and this spirit, this ghost. Galen is not comfortable, but Galen, I would imagine, feels shockingly safer than we would expect because of the relationship that's been building between Galen and Reagan. Reagan. This is a source of comfort and of purpose. Reagan used to work for the Bluecoats and is now realized that this is where she is happiest and where she is the most comfortable in making this connection. And Reagan does good work here. So we relieved that stress. Let's head back and let's talk about what's next. So we've gotten 2 actions out of Reagan. Reagan is done with downtime. There is a mechanic, and we'll talk about it, that will allow Reagan to do a 3rd downtime action. We'll find out if that's going to happen. But Cornelius, you've got your 2nd free downtime action. What's next?
Okay. So Cornelius will indulge a vice, and for sure I need to get rid of that stress. However, interestingly enough, I lost the connection that was helping me to with my faith with the ghosts, and it was Malista, a priestess, and due to unfortunate circumstances, she just told me that she will not speak with me anymore because I don't have good intentions with ghosts. So that brought us to the mission to go to the Right Veil Club, which I went there to get closer to the ghosts, maybe to understand them, and I was a little bit angry, so Ghost Fight Club sounded like a good idea. However, as we saw last time, they were not actual ghosts, so that did not go well through. So what do I do next? So I'm thinking, and this is where I was thinking to connect it with the project that I would potentially do as a 3rd downtime action. I would need to find some connection, something that would help me to reduce my stress and let's say work in this direction. So I'm thinking, like before I do the project, the vice indulging would be to trying to find ghosts, to find some, because I have my duel now, and I need the filler, let's say. And
well, so your vice is faith, right? And the faith is connected to this connection to the ghost world, and you've lost your purveyor. Originally, you would have conversations with this priestess, and she would help you understand ghosts, make you feel better and more comfortable. With just the concept of a veil and of a world outside of the world. But she doesn't want to talk to you. So I think that what we need to do is one of two options, and you tell me what is better for you. We can acquire an asset, which would be a temporary person or something, a source for your vice, a temporary purveyor of the vice. And then you would acquire that until you needed to indulge your vice, and once you've indulged that vice, then that asset would go. Or we can talk about potentially a long-term project to acquire a new purveyor.
I was thinking a long-term project. That was the idea. But the question is how, like, if I could reduce the stress before the project finishes, and I was thinking like the indulge vice would be the execution of the project, trying to follow it through. So it would cost 2 actions, of course, but like
yes, ultimately it will. Yeah. So here's what I'd be willing to do. Let's see how far along in the long-term project you get, and it's going to be a relatively easy one. It's going to be a 4 o'clock project. So if you want to go in and create a new long-term project on your sheet, and let's call it new purveyor. And what do you, if once this finishes, this 4-segment clock, what do you anticipate the new purveyor is going to be?
So, okay, I have a slightly crazy idea, but let's see if that works for you. I was thinking, so it would be a ghost itself that I would put into a hollow. So the project would be to find such hollow and try to catch a ghost and combine them, and this would help me to interact, because hollow is more physical manifestation of a ghost or a spirit that entered like this hollow, which is a body without the spirit. So I would have to, this would be more direct way how I could indulge a conversation with such a spirit. So it's a combination of several things. Maybe it doesn't have to be one project, but that would be the direction I would like to go.
So we're going to try to track down a hollow.
Yes.
All right, wonderful. So let's go ahead for your long-term project. What are we going to do? What action are we going to use?
I'm thinking survey, because it's a trekking, so it's not maybe the most optimal, but it makes sense for me. Maybe I would go look to a direction closer to the barrier. Maybe it's bigger chance that this would be happening there, because the barrier, if I understand it correctly, is around Duskwall, protecting it against such ghosts from the outside. Right.
Yeah, and I would imagine, even leveraging Reagan a little bit, and explaining to Reagan, because I mean, and you tell me, Joe, I don't want to tell you what Reagan would think, but what does Reagan think about this new path for Talos?
Reagan would have questions, which I am happy to go through.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So let's go ahead and let's roll, and let's see how many segments we get on your 4-segment clock.
So I'm rolling the survey, right?
Yep. And what do you have in survey?
1 pip.
Okay, so let's do 1 die. Let's see what happens. All right, so 2 segments. You're halfway there, which I'm willing to. Let's say this. Let's say that you were able to locate a hollow, and I think between sessions. Vaslav, I would love to really bring this hollow to form as a character. We don't need to do that now, but I would like to figure out who this hollow is, how it became a hollow, and maybe a little bit of history, so that when this hollow becomes your new vice purveyor, we really have a better understanding of it. But again, we don't need to do that now. But let's just say that you are able to connect and identify this hollow, and have maybe an initial conversation, an interaction with this hollow. And I will allow you to do a third action of Indulge Vice, even though the clock's not committed. So when we come back around looking for anybody who wants to do a third downtime action, I have a feeling you will, because I don't know if you want to go into the next score in your current stress situation. So, all right, great. Let's go to our second action, a downtime action with Galen. So Galen has reduced heat. Galen has had a phenomenally just comfortable interaction with Reagan, which is usually how interactions with Reagan go. So that has finished. What is next on Galen's itinerary?
Well, while it was a lovely interaction, and after the initial, like, wait, there's ghost stuff tension going on, Galen realized that, like, the ghosts are not coming for his face, and therefore he was able to relax through the process. It was a good character building moment, I would say, for him.
Sure.
But that definitely, after, like, he's already been doing more work with reducing heat. Now this is another thing on his good to do but to do list. After they're done, he's gonna head back to his favorite spot and order up another pint of something, and it's just in time for the live music for the evening. So he's going to, at this point, he's kind of always got an ear out, but he's not inserting himself into conversations now. He's tapping his feet and singing along to whatever body songs they're singing there. And
this is one of those rare times, I imagine, where Galen has me time, right? Where Galen is not necessarily on the job, where Galen has the ability to say, you know what, I'm really not going to listen. I'm really not going to try to stay two steps ahead of anybody. What I'm going to do right now is relax, have a pint, and unwind. So let's go ahead and indulge that vice.
Alrighty. And he is a rather well-balanced individual with 2 points in each spot. So
very nice. Do
you have a preference?
I don't. Tell me, do you want to do this with insight, prowess, or resolve?
I think he's going to go with resolve. This is a way that he just kind of helps himself out. He resets his resolve, if you will.
Great. So we're going to drop that down by 5. That puts you in a pretty decent position now. So what is your stress now?
That goes from 8 down to 3.
Wonderful. 3 out of 9. That puts you in a nice position. The camera cuts away as Galen's tapping his foot, maybe in order his third stout, and we fade back to Elias sitting with his father. I'm curious, what is Elias's next downtime?
I was really thinking about doing some training with my second downtime. I'm going to keep my stress where it's at, but I imagine after I had my moment with my father, kind of headed back to our hideout, and speaking with Cornelius and Reagan. One of the areas I want to improve is in resolve, and one of those attributes, or whatever the ability, attune. I'm thinking I might be able to piggyback off of the adventures of Cornelius, going out to the wall and trying to maybe learn from him in that experience, as far as training in resolve.
I like it. So what I'm wondering, what do you think about this? And if you don't like this, we don't have to do it. But my initial thought is Elias seeing Cornelius leave. Cornelius saying, you know, look, I need some time, and I'll be back. Elias, in sort of a curiosity, as well as paternal, feels the need to track Cornelius, and follows Cornelius. And it's odd because I don't even think Elias knows whether he is being untrustworthy, if he's in some way betraying Cornelius by doing this, or is it, I just want to make sure Cornelius is okay. And I imagine some conflicting feelings, and soon Elias realizes what Cornelius is doing and sees him go out to the fence, and the barriers that are keeping all of the just awfulness that's outside of Duskfall. And watches what Cornelius does and sees Cornelius through that process interact with something truly supernatural. And I don't even know if Elias fully knows what it is, but he knows it is not of the norm. So I love it. Let's go ahead and have that be a train in your resolve. So to do that, we're going to go ahead and add an XP to your resolve.
Okay.
And when this fills up, you will then have the ability to add a pip or a rank, either adding a new one. In this case, sounds like we're targeting a tune. But if you wanted to, you could also add to your consort or whatever. So that's fantastic. All right, so everybody has now had 2 downtime actions. I want to know if Reagan is going to do a third.
Yes.
All right, so how are we going to pay for this?
We are paying for this with coin because, as I've mentioned before, Reagan doesn't care about money.
All right, so let's go ahead and drop your coin by 1, and let's do a third downtime action.
Yeah, so the way I'm going to narratively explain the coin for this downtime action is very simple. I am going to be doing my other long-term project. Let's see if we can knock them both out. And the thing that I'm currently doing for this downtime project is I am acquiring a mirror as a focus for this ritual. So if all goes to plan, I can very easily say I spent a coin to get this spooky mirror. If not, it's more like greasing palms to track this thing down.
And so we're going to work to try to get this one more tool in order for Reagan to help keep things unnoticeable and untraceable for the crew itself. So let's go ahead and do our long-term project. What are we going to do as our attribute? What are we going to roll?
Yes, so the particular thing I'm looking for is a mirror made out of the crystalline subjects that ghosts turn into when they are dissipated. So I feel like it's a lot of going around and very intently looking at the facets of mirrors that people have in weird charity shops. That's probably not pawn shops. There we go. That's the proper vernacular. And weird occult stores. Maybe even checking in with the Broth and Found, which is sort of a purveyor of ours. So it's gonna be a study because I'm doing some real intense looking at a thing.
I love it. So we've paid our coin for a third downtime action, and then we're going to go ahead and do a study roll. And let's see how many segments of our 4-segment clock we can fill. Very nice. 5. So let's go ahead and add 2 more segments. That puts you very close.
Long
go ahead.
That's sorry, I was just thinking because the way this is weirdly worded, I'm looking for something to acquire an asset, but I'm actually doing a long-term project, so I don't get Galen's thing. But yeah, cool. So 2 more.
All right, beautiful. So you are only 1 segment away. Congratulations. Yeah. We might be having a very handy mirror available to Reagan as a result the umbral means. Talos, we know Talos is going to pay a coin, right? We're going to do a third downtime action. This is going to be your Indulgence of Vice.
Exactly.
What is your lowest attribute?
My lowest attribute is a resolve. To pick 1 pip there.
All right, so let's go ahead and do an Indulgence of a Vice based off of resolve.
Not 1 this time, please.
Nice. 4. So that's going to drop you down. That puts you also at 3 of 9, doesn't it?
Yeah, indeed.
Wonderful. How about Galen? Is Galen paying a coin and doing another downtime?
Very much so.
Oh, wow. Okay. Look at this.
So he is... I'm imagining the coin being spent as gathering just a smattering of materials. But without him knowing what they are specifically, he's essentially paying money to kids in the neighborhood to go into pawn shops, buy random stuff, and bring it back. Because what he's going to do is he's going to be setting up essentially an I Spy game in the library, and he's going to be practicing his ability to his insight to survey the area around him without looking like he's doing it. So he's essentially scattering random bits throughout the library, walking down an aisle and determining, out of the corner of my eye I saw, 3 dice and 2 fake B pins, and I read that book cover over there, and then going back and double checking and doing that until he has better peripheral detail vision.
So by throwing a little bit of coin around, getting some children to run in and buy random things, plant them within the library hideout, and practicing your insight, it sounds like we're training.
Yes, he's definitely training his insight, and the study specifically, because with our hideout's ability to train insight, this will get me my last 2 XP to get me a new pip in survey.
Did I? Oh no, you only get 1 XP when you train.
Right, but we have the training for the actual hideout, which gets us an extra 1.
Oh, okay, great. All right, so is that going to go? So we're going to clear out your XP and insight, and we're going to add a pip to study.
Survey.
Or survey. Beautiful.
Yes.
Well done. Well done. So Elias, apparently everybody's just throwing coin around and getting an extra downtime action. Are you frugal, or are you ready to do the same?
Oh, I'm going to make it rain. We're going to spend some coin here, Craig. Knowing what I know now about getting the extra in the layer hideout, I'm going to do train again.
Well, and if you want, Elias, because I think you and I both kind of forgot that.
Yeah.
I'm fine with you going ahead and getting 2 XP, and we can kind of retcon that you did it tied to the layer. So let's give you that extra XP from the previous one, and if you want to train again, you'll be able to fill out your result.
Gotcha. Okay, yeah. Let's. I'm going to train again, and I think what I'm going to do is, just because it's a pip on here's consort, I'm going to practice chatting with our friend Roman. I'm sorry, what's your Galen?
I don't want to rain on your parade, but we only have the training in the hideout for insight and prowess.
Yeah, insight.
Oh, insight and prowess. That's it. Okay.
Let's drop that resolve back down. That's okay. Got it. So it's only insight and prowess. So if you want to train and resolve, it'll be 1 XP.
All right. I think I'm gonna rewind just a little bit then.
Yep.
Instead of training, I'm going to try to finish out my rifle modification to be more of a concealed rifle, being in 2 pieces. So I'm going to head over to my father's machine shop, kind of knock the dust off the machinery, and try to get my rifle fully modified.
So right now, the rifle that Elias uses is a item that takes up 2 slots from his equipment. And what Elias has been trying to do is figure out a way to make the rifle something that can be easily broken down and put back together in a very quick way. Finding places where things can latch and things can be condensed down, and essentially making the rifle only taking 1 slot for equipment. And once that happens, it's going to give Nick a lot more flexibility as far as the loadouts and things he can take with him. So you've only got 2 segments left on that clock. I assume we're doing Tinker?
Yes, absolutely.
All right, so let's see. On our long-term project, let's see if we can get a 4, 5, or 6.
Gotcha.
Today's the day to finish your projects. You guys are so industrious.
Do it. All right. So, Tinker, standard, whatever, doesn't matter, right?
Right. Ah, so close. All
This
right.
rifle's costing me a fortune.
It sure is. All right, so let's do 2. Let's do the 1 segment, and then but the good news is you only got 1 segment left to go, right? So the next time that you do this long-term project, your rifle is going to be your go-go gadget rifle. It'll be able to be easily,
And that'll be when he rolls the 6.
broken down. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. That's exactly when it'll happen. All right, so wonderful. That finishes our downtime. So now what I want to do is let's take a quick look at the Umbral Means' character sheet. Something that's neat in Blades in the Dark is the crew itself has a character sheet. The crew itself gains experience. And where we're going to focus is in this area here. And this is the idea of claims. So we see that we've already picked up 1 claim, which was the covert drops. And this, you've heard it talked about a little bit. If you've watched previous episodes, you already know the The noodle shop called the Brothed and Found, which incidentally we had somebody in the chat name for us, is a noodle shop that in the back is also a front for the trade and sales of arcane objects. And this has now become a drop for the Umbral Means, which mechanically gives them +2 coin if they use espionage or sabotage as part of a score. They attempted last time to gain some turf by taking over the bar, the fight club. They were able to do some damage and basically dismantle the operation itself, but at the very end failed to actually take over the club itself. So now, for the 4 of you, what are we thinking for our next score? Are we thinking of going for a claim? Or are we just going to just do a score for the money that it brings?
I know we had mentioned informants a couple of times over the course of both the game and in private chat. Don't know if that's still what we want to go.
Actually, I've got an option on there because when we tried informants, I went and tried to gather some information at the Iron Hook prison, and we have a clock going for that. What if we were to attempt another gather information and see if we've got the info that we need to try to get that informant inside the prison?
Yeah, and if I remember correctly, that was the goal, right? Is to have a bit of a information network built up within the Iron Hook prison itself, and which really could be extremely valuable because there's a bit of a turnstile of people in and out, as well as long-term residents. They're connected to the Blue Coats, of course. They're connected politically, being an institution within Duskfall. So I like that. So let's say that our next score is going to be trying to create a bit of an information network within the prison itself. So now we got to plan our score. So let's go over and do just that. So the way that this works is the first thing we need to do is we need to figure out what our approach is going to be. So what is the way that you, the Umbral Means, are going to approach gaining this information network within the prison itself? Your choices are assault, deception, stealth, occult, social, or transport.
Do we remember what we kind of committed to the first time we tried this?
We had the idea of acquiring. I think we were going for like the guards more than the prisoners that kind of rotate through. And I believe the intention was to find some sort of like blackmailable material. That's part of what that previous gather information was that was getting a bit too risky, so we kind of pulled off of that. But I believe so that feels to me like it would be if we're doing that, then it's like stealth or social, depending on the information that we gather.
Yeah, I definitely think social there, because it becomes a question of finding the information and letting them know we have it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but you have to get it first, right?
Yeah.
Is that the idea? All right.
Mm-hmm.
So let me, as you guys, I would, let's keep brainstorming on that, and I'm going to try to get us some names here of potential targets, at least, for the blackmail. So give me just a moment, and let's talk through a little bit the difference between doing this through stealth or social.
Gotcha.
Okay.
So,
I think social makes more sense in my head, just for the simple fact we're going to be bringing this to his face to do the blackmailing once we know who's whatever has that weakness that could be blanking on the right word, but that's what makes sense in my head.
yeah, it's. I feel like this is it's slightly dependent on gather information, because if we find out that the information is out there, It's knowing what that is. Like, we could do similar to how we did in our first score of like going to the place and like literally taking the information, or whether it's about like utilizing Galen's network and just acquiring it through social interaction.
Yeah, and I feel like for our gang's reputation, the social makes more sense that way, because it's more of a it is casting that web, that net, and waiting for the right string to pull, and the spider runs over and gets the fly, as opposed to I'm going to go out and actively hunt flies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Alright, so let's see here.
I could just imagine Galen at the bar, where the local pub where the guards hang out after work and get a little tipsy, gathering that information, figure out who is vulnerable. That's the word I was looking for earlier. And then having me myself follow these guys where they go, any kind of interaction they have, anything that's suspicious that might be able to say, hey, look, this guy's smuggling drugs or whatever.
Yeah. Or he has family ties to, some really big gang. So how can he be or they be a like good impartial guard kind of a thing? And if the prison guards as a whole find out, like, they'd be out of a job. So something like that for sure.
So let's do a gather information roll, and let's do that to try to kind of figure out maybe who is a potential weak spot within this network of guards and employees at the Iron Hook prison. Who would like to do that to gather information?
I will jump on that with my brand spanking new survey point.
So I have one in survey, and I actually have two in hunt. So if we approach it where I'm hunting someone down, tracking them, figuring out where they're at, I might be more successful in that, right?
Well, the only reason we can try that. The problem is I don't know if you know exactly who to hunt at this point.
Yeah.
I think that we're at a point right now where we need to figure out, kind of information about who potentially is someone to hunt. Does that make sense? So I think we're going to probably end up doing both, Nick.
Okay.
I think we maybe start with a consort and see what can Lamplighter uncover some potential.
Any other social butterflies that could help?
And that was my question. Do you want survey or do you want consort? Because I can see this going either way. Consort's more of I'm inserting myself into the conversations. Survey is I'm letting them talk, and I just happen to be listening.
So in both cases, you'll get the same result. So I'll let you choose.
Okay. I feel like in this case, again, for the we are unseen, it's better for me to just be the guy off to the side drinking his beer and eating his pretzels or whatever, while they're chit-chatting, thinking they're talking low enough and they're not.
Great.
Oh boy.
Oof.
I think we need to abandon this story, guys.
Okay. So Galen, you're hearing conversations. It seems like every time you insert the idea of the Iron Hook prison into the conversation, you try to get an idea of what's going on. It's not coming together. You're not getting the information that you need, which makes obviously this score a little bit more difficult because it's not real clear how you're going to accomplish this and what weaknesses that you can find in there. So that means that we can approach the score differently. We can go for a different claim. What are our thoughts? But I don't think you have enough to really gain an information network for now within.
Yeah.
Yeah. My vote is to hold off on this.
This is a long term
Definitely.
grab, I think.
Yeah. go back
I mean,
to turf.
the other one would still be kind of that lower right turf, eventually leading to secret passageways and lookouts.
Yeah.
I think would be the next tactical advantage.
Mhm.
All right, so we're going to try to go for this turf. What is going to be the turf that you are trying to acquire?
Does turf need to be like a specific place? Could it be just like maybe maybe some road in Duskwall that is interesting enough for transporting whatever, or maybe a place in the shipyard, like because when somebody says turf, I imagine like block in the city basically is a turf, but this is more like abstract that it would be maybe a smuggling path to the city or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, in my mind, turf really is controlling an area, right? So, before when you're going for turf, you're going to try to control this club, this fight club, and take it over. And this is your turf. That club was going to be your turf, which it isn't now. So, yeah, I don't think it has to be 4 walls, a roof, and a ceiling. Necessarily, I think that if the 4 of you can come up with a place that you want to control, we can count that as a turf claim.
Kind of bouncing off Vaslav's idea, like it might be cool if like our turf is a escape route, something like a sewer way or like a canal dock or something.
Exactly. That was my thing, like something in this direction. It might be something in the dock. I like the idea with the sewers. That's this more hidden.
The sewer feels right for us with Zero here and
well, and especially in the lair, we know it was built to have access to underground utility canals. So I totally see us just at some point just kind of wandering those canals and seeing where they come out and going, oh, yeah, we should totally make nice with the people who own that bookstore so we can use their back room to get down here at some point.
So there's a faction for the gondoliers. And they are essentially, for lack of a better word, a union of taxi drivers that navigate and work all throughout Duskwall. And maybe you can claim a route, or maybe claim a network of canals and subterranean tunnels and things like that will allow you to have better control or increase your influence and control in Duskwall. This would be something that you could bargain with. This could be something that you could use, because when we talk mechanically about turf, let me just bring that up. And it has a mechanical aspect to it, but it's real easy to fit, right? So, I mean, ultimately, by gaining turf, what you do is you reduce the amount of rep you need to upgrade your crew. So right now, you're a crew at tier 0, and there's huge benefits for the crew if you guys can get to tier 1. And if you control a certain amount of the underground areas and some of these canal areas, I could definitely see that making your ability to upgrade yourselves within Duskwall as a crew very good. Very, very good. So, how are we going to take control of an area, combination of subterranean sewers, canals? How would the Umbral means acquire that turf?
I believe the
What would
Gale.
be the approach?
I believe the Galen special of "we scratch your back, you scratch ours," and find out who the gondoliers have beef with, and leveraging something with that to cut some kind of deal.
Yeah, who's trying to union bust the gondoliers?
I like it.
Yes.
All right. So let me take a look here real quick. What do I like? So it sounds like we're going to do a gather information.
Mm-hmm.
And trying to think here. I'm gonna grab my book. I'll be right back.
Okay. Hey Nick,
like-
what did we have that clock for the informants for the prison? What was that named?
It was Discover the Leak, seeking an informant in Iron Hook Prison.
Okay.
It's 1 out of 4 right now. So. And if I recall, I was spotting for people, figuring out where they congregate, or looking for who's in charge to potentially leverage something on them and start the investigation.
Yeah, I see that as basically like you're keeping an eye out when people leave the prison to see where they're going, and then I know where to go listen.
Yeah.
I think that's the key here.
Gotcha.
Thinking long term.
Yeah, no, for sure. I like that.
All right, I'm not very familiar with the gondoliers, so just give me a moment.
They're tier -1. We can handle them. Take that word for it.
They're tier 3.
Oh joy.
They're tier 3.
Well, we're trying to be friends with them, so that works out.
Yeah, true that.
Yeah, but if they're tier 3,
All right,
who
so-
would mess with them?
We're trying to gather information to find out who's an opposing faction to the gondoliers. Does that sound accurate?
Yeah, who's giving them trouble? Who can
Okay.
Who can by us messing with them make the gondoliers like us more?
Got it.
Do we need
Got
to be this direct? Can we maybe find what is interesting for the gondoliers to do? Not necessarily that there is opposing faction that we need to sabotage.
Yeah, is there something they want? I guess is the lowest
more-
common denominator of
Yeah,
what they're
more general one.
Well, so those are two different things, and we could potentially do 2 gather information roles. I'd be okay with that. So one is, figuring out from a faction standpoint who is creating problems for the gondoliers, and what are some of the goals of the gondoliers. What do you want? Do you want to do one or both?
Yeah, I'd say let's start with the goals. I feel like that's gonna open up more indirect opportunities.
Okay. How are we going to do that? How are we gathering this information?
Well, they don't really know us, so it wouldn't really be a consort. We could try survey again. This is something where I could almost see posting up and like watching the gondoliers and being like, all right, I see that they keep going by this spot a lot, and I'm trying to figure out what they want there, and then we can go look into it.
I was thinking how to put that in words exactly. Like we could watch the patterns they are going, and we would see some hot spots or cold spots in this case that they are trying to avoid. Yeah.
Smells like a survey? Does that sound
no.
accurate? All right. I hear that there's somebody who's really good at surveying.
Yeah, I'll give it a shot.
So, Elias, do you want to give us a survey roll?
I have a single survey. Can I assist on something like this to maybe assist
Well,
you?
you know what? Now I'm thinking about it. It could be Hunt as well.
Mhm.
I think if you want to use Hunt, I'd be good with that as well.
Okay. Yeah, I will do Hunt then.
All right, let's do a gather information with Hunt. Okay. So 4 is a success with consequences on that gathering information.
No success, shame on you.
I will. I'll tell you the success, and then we can talk about the consequence.
Okay.
So the success is, as you're watching the gondoliers' movements, they, on a pretty regular basis, seem to do a couple things. They seem to be going to different arcane shops. So you actually see them go to the Brothen Found. So there seems to be some interest in the arcane happening with the gondoliers, and you notice them going to certain spots within the underground sewers. And you actually, as you start mapping that out a little bit, and you kind of put it on the table in the library and pointing it out, Reagan notices something, and Reagan notices that these seems to be very close to areas that Reagan knows as desecrated hollows, areas of concentrations of spirits, where different parts of Duskfall where the veil is thinner than in other places. So the best you can figure out, Elias, is that with the help of everybody, is that somehow the gondoliers seem to be very interested in the veil. They seem to be very interested in the ghost world, and not really clear why. But that's what they seem to tell you. The consequence is
Elias shits his pants, I think.
Yeah.
My branded knives are back at the shop.
Yeah, you left a knife. Griggs, who is one of, he seems to be the primary person that is the lead on this. So you keep seeing this gentleman named Griggs as part of it, and you were spotted. And if Griggs were to see you again, I think there's a decent chance Griggs would go, I saw him like over the past 3 weeks. Keep seeing this dude. So if you encounter Griggs, there's a good chance that Griggs will recognize as somebody who's been staking him out. But the success is that it seems somehow the gondoliers seem to be very focused on looking for and acquiring potential arcane artifacts, not real sure why or what they are, and they spend time in these different areas that are considered, desecrated hollows. Do you want to take a quick look at potential allies or enemies?
How many gather information rolls do we get? Because
I don't remember mechanically off the top of my head. Are you allowed to?
Let's
I feel like you are. Because I feel like it's pretty open-ended, but I could be wrong. Let's take a quick look. The table of contents doesn't save you. The index will.
Page 36, 37.
36, 37. Let's take a quick look at this.
This is each attempt.
Let's see. Oh, PC Dart, thank you for the sub. All right, so let's take a look. Gather information. I don't read a limit.
Yeah, just situation allows, you can do more. Looks like.
Yeah, it's each attempt. It's taking time. So I feel like to me that kind of reads as like to make Craig the villain. You probably just get to tell us when, like, okay, time for us to actually do something.
Yeah, I think
which is kind of how Blades works in general. So
yeah. So we can. I'm allowing one more.
Okay.
So yeah, if you guys want to do one more, gather information, we can do that. With the goal of getting a sense of allies and enemies.
Cool. I think this would be perfect for a survey from Galen, basically looking over not only information that Elias already provided, as we're all looking over their movement patterns, but also looking into that and any, quote unquote documentation. He's checking out the gang tabloids for who's got beef.
Great, let's do it.
Cool.
Oh.
Right. Oh. No trouble finding this information. So we're going to get all of it. We're going to get a sense of enemies and allies. So in the as you've been surveying through, listening to different conversations, trying to pick up different items, you can discover a couple things. One, the gondoliers seem to be very close to the lampbacks, and for those not familiar with the lampbacks, they're a former lamplighter guild who essentially has turned to crime when their services were replaced by the electric lights. So as the electroplasm became more prevalent within Duskfall, the need to have lamplighters walking around went less and less. And there seems to be a connection between the lampbacks and the gondoliers. Conflict. This is very interesting. One of them is with the red sashes. There appear to be some beef between the red sashes and the gondoliers. The red sashes were originally a school of very ancient Eruvian sword arts and assassins, but they have been not just a school for teaching a style of swordsmanship, they also appear to be doing some criming. The other group is the Spirit Wardens. There seems to be some conflict between the Spirit Wardens and the gondoliers as well. The Spirit Wardens, very quickly, if someone dies in Duskfall, a bell rings. And what you have is you have the Spirit Wardens who will very quickly descend. First the bell rings, then there's a crow, a raven that will basically encircle and ID the place where the death occurred. The Spirit Wardens are brought in, and the Spirit Warden's job is to essentially get rid of the ghost before the ghost becomes a problem, because what has put Duskfall in this situation where it is now surrounded by this energy field is the there's not room for any more ghosts. They don't want any more ghosts, and the Spirit Wardens are a very dangerous and powerful, mysterious cabal whose job is to stop dead people from turning into ghosts and going on. So there's rumors about how they do it, but
they're also incorruptible and faceless, which
they're
is a thing that we would probably need to know.
Now let's talk tiers real quick, right? So, because this might influence your decision. So your lampbacks are tier 2, and those we see are some sort of ally to the gondoliers. The red sashes, as one of the potential enemies, are tier 2 as well. And then I dare say
they're ridiculously high.
Yeah, the Spirit Wardens are they're tier 4. Yeah. So I would think your target would either be the lampbacks or the red sashes.
I mean,
So we're going to go for friends or enemies.
I was going to say, if we're targeting the lampbacks, aren't we just trying to help them out with something, essentially? Based on what we found with the other gather information, it kind of sounds like they're trying to find out more about what the Spirit Wardens do, based on them trying to be interested in the Veil. But that's probably punching above our weight.
Just a bit.
I don't think we can find a Spirit Warden pin and insert ourselves into their house.
So tier 2 is like how many members roughly? Is it like
What's
20? Or, tier 2, what size is that? We're 0, so it's like just 4 of us.
Yeah,
tier
tier 2 could be 20, 30, 40. Somewhere in there. And keep in mind it's a combination of size and influence, right? So you potentially could have a tier 4 single human being, right? Or you could have an organization that's 50 wide but only a tier 1, because it's not just size, it's influence.
And it's not like we have to take the red sashes on head on. I mean, the gondoliers being tier 3, we're really just trying to bring something to the table that could help. So we're not doing an all-out faction war unless I drop another knife.
No knives.
No knives. No, those are back in the shop. That's Dad's office.
If we're going to explore the possibility of maybe hurting the red sashes in some way, which would endear you to the gondoliers or the gondoliers to you. The red sashes, they have their HQ headquarters is as a front as a school. It's a place where anybody can come and learn some of their ancient Eruvian sword fighting techniques.
So we would enroll in their dojo, right?
Well, that's a possibility, right?
If we train with them, we could be Ninja Turtles if we're trying to get sewers. I'm just saying.
I think this is more the hand than Ninja Turtles, I think.
So the other thing about the Red Sashes is the school is located in Crow's Foot, which is an area that you have got some allies in, right? With the I can't remember the faction's name. Is the what is the name of it? The Crows. Well, that was hard. So you've ingratiated yourself to the Crows with your first score, so that's helpful. And one of the things that you know is that the Red Sashes have been a little aggressive as far as throwing their weight around Crow's Foot. So I'm wondering if you can somehow hurt the Red Sashes, you might get a 2-for-1.
Yeah.
It might help make yourself even more ingratiated, not only to the gondoliers to help acquire this turf of some passageways and control over ins and outs underground and on the water, but you potentially can even help your relationship with the Crows. So do we want to
I think that's
put a hurting on the Red Sashes?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like the idea that we're not like messing with the higher tier and without any help. This makes more sense to start.
Yeah, tier 2. You've punched at tier 2s before, so.
Yeah.
All
now
right,
it would be with the help maybe.
So what's our approach going to be? How are we going to try to hurt the Red Sashes? Are we going to do it via assault, deception, stealth, occult, social, or transport?
I feel like an avenue we could take is like they are secretly assassins that we as the criminals know that is a thing. But I feel like it's all about like bringing certain elements of that to light.
Mm-hmm. Like find evidence of a hit they've done that was high profile recently and put their name out there attached to it. I like that. That sounds a lot like stealth.
So that sounds like taking something out. I was thinking to bringing something in and just telling on them simply to get them like, look, these ugly people are punching bad people, good people.
Punching babies, let's get them.
Yeah. I was thinking
right,
to spice it up a little bit, like doing transport, so getting really something in.
Well, and don't you guys? You guys get bonuses right now on what? What based off of your previous claim?
That's true.
You're in better shape if you do which type of an approach? Is it espionage and sabotage?
Yeah.
All right. So is there a way we can think about, potentially sabotaging the Red Sashes? So taking a step back, they run a school. They allow students to come in. They're also growing their ranks via the school itself, and just through chatter and things like that the Red Sashes are not just a school for teachers. They are Eruvian, much like Cornelius. So what is something we can do? What's an approach to sabotage the Red Sashes?
Is there? Do they have
espionage?
Or
espionage.
Sabotage or espionage. Yeah.
Do they have like honor system? So maybe we could attack their honor, and maybe that would hurt their, advertisement that they have this great school with history, and you would say, yeah, but these guys are just.
They're definitely part of the reason that they are allowed to exist is because they have this appearance of just being a school that's teaching both cultural and essentially a martial arts school.
Mm-hmm.
For the Eruvian Red Sashes and the sword fighting technique. So just real quick, so the sword fighting technique for them is sword, but they also have blades. They're called Red Sashes because they have sashes that they wear that end in blades. So it's the fighting style is a combination of using swords and literally like slicing you with these scarves that have bladed ends to them. and if you enroll yourself in this school, that's the art that they're teaching you, is this fighting style. But what you and many of the underground criminal elements within Duskfall know is that they're using that school to both grow their ranks, fund their activities, and they are doing their own criminal acts, including trying to take control of Crowsfoot.
So if we sabotage the school itself, it would hurt their income, basically. At least a little.
So two options are kind of jumping out at me. One, and either way, this ultimately hits their reputation as for their front. The one is essentially like get one of their classes in trouble. Like I'm imagining, someone in like a what? Yeah, essentially like, hey, it's graduation night from regular schooling, and these guys have been like they're essentially going from their residency to being doctors in assassinations. So I'm expecting some kind of a party for celebrations there. If you get those guys, basically, if the law gets brought in to bring them up on charges for doing things untoward for members of the school, that hurts their ability to bring more people in. On the other hand, if you get one of their faculty attached to, again, like a hit, and doesn't have to be like they did the hit, it's they had knowledge of it or they ordered it, all of that hurts their reputation in one way or another. So we got a couple options here, I think.
Yeah.
So instead of planting a bellhook, we would plant a sash with a blade.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Boy, the billhooks finally get a break.
I mean, we've got to find some way to implicate the billhooks in this anyway.
All right, so let's narrow this down. So maybe we can do the approach via process of elimination. We can start with our favorite one to eliminate first, which is the transport. There will be a day.
We can't just transport the school out of Crow's Nest and.
Hey, Craig, real quick, do we know that if they are master alchemists and running drug dens, or was that not part of our gather?
No. I think
Okay.
we've kind of used that up, so no.
Okay, that's
yeah, assault doesn't sound like how you do things.
Yeah. Also, not a great idea to assault
I
the
think
assassins.
that puts us at deception, stealth, occult, or social. And remember, we're not going to plan this thing, right? We're not going to get lost in the details here. All we're going to do is pick an approach. We're going to come up with a detail, and then we're going to roll and start playing.
So I have a pitch. We're in Crowsfoot, which we've done a bit of work in before, and one of the reasons that we picked it specifically is because ghost presence is very active. So if we have ways of drawing ghosts to a specific place, we have ways of manipulating ghosts in that aspect. So if we want to use like some like the kernels of the ideas to weirdly, this might also bring spirit wardens into this, which is interesting and slightly terrifying. Using that as an avenue to like either discredit or almost like the thought that I just had as I'm speaking is like almost using a big display of like having ghosts appear around the school as almost like a symbolic like
bad omen.
Yeah, look at all the people that that this organization has killed.
Oh, I like that.
Interesting. Some bad juju.
Yeah.
Galen
That's
hates
what
it. I like it.
Yeah.
All right, so it sounds like our approach is going to be a cult.
Yep.
And what is the detail we need then is what is the arcane method?
Oh, are there choices like inspiration?
Well, you have a ghost ward that can attract spooks.
Yeah.
Is the arcane method is that we are going to try to manifest
so it's not mechanical. It's
a
like
ghost protest?
It's like we describe how we do the occult. Okay.
Some sort of parade of dead folk.
Arcane method produce omen.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're it sounds like the Umbral Means are trying to put together a Ghost Lives Matter like protest at the Red Sashes school. Does that sound like what we're doing?
Excellent.
Good
All
with
right.
that.
All right, so we have got our approach is the occult. Our arcane method is going to be trying to manifest a large ghost presence in and around the HQ of the Red Sashes. The hope is that by hurting the Red Sashes, we can then go to the gondoliers and say, look, we took care of a problem for you. How about you give us a little bit more access and control over some of these underground passageways and canals so that we can use them for our work and to help leverage and increase our turf here in Duskfall. That means we now need to get to the engagement roll. And what the engagement roll is going to decide is what is our situation when the score begins. So who wants to be in charge of rolling the engagement roll?
I do.
All right.
All
So
right.
Cornelius, let's start off with 1 die for sheer luck. So you always get 1 die to start off with.
There is actually an engagement button on the sheet for
Yeah.
the crew.
So next, is this operation particularly bold or daring?
Yes.
I would say yes. I would say yes. It's a tier 2 target. Messing with ghosty stuff in Crow's Foot is a little daring too, because there's interesting things happening in Crow's Foot when it comes to the spirits and the ghosts. So we're at 2 dice. Is the operation overly complex or contingent on many factors?
We know what we're doing. Like, it's like, we put the stuff down, we turn it on, and that's it.
Struggling with this one. I think if the approach was I'm going to get 1 ghost to show up someplace, I would say that's pretty simple. I think you trying to somehow manifest a crowd of ghosts, I think, is a little bit complex and contingent on many factors. So I'm going to take a die away from you on that one. So let's talk about potential +1. A plan exposes a vulnerability of the target or hits them with where they're the weakest. Nope. Target is strongest against this approach and has particular defenses or special preparations. Nope. So we're back. We're still at 1 die. Friends or contacts provide aid or insight. No question. You're doing this in Crow's Foot. You are in with the crows. The occult approach is something that Reagan helps with in her contacts. So let's go up to 2 dice because of the friends or contacts. Enemies or rivals interfering in the operation? No, this is a whole new group that you have yet to entangle with. So we're not going to take a die away from that. Lower tier target? Nope. Higher tier target? Yes. That brings us back to 1 die. Let's take a quick look at the district.
Sheer luck die.
And let's take a look at what the modifier is. That was a lot to get just back to the sheer luck die, wasn't it? All right, let's look at Crow's Foot here. 250. That's for a tank. Where's my districts? There it is. Crow's Foot. So the district modifier. Years of murder have made this the most haunted district. Angry ghosts crave bloodshed here. You may take a devil's bargain for +1 die for violent actions, but the ghosts will lash out too. So it doesn't affect this roll. We have got 1 die for our engagement roll.
Okay, someone else wants to roll it?
You don't want to own this?
Let's do this.
Yeah.
And...
Just get a 6. Craig loves it when we get 6s.
what a shame.
All right, so we have got a 3, which I think puts us in a desperate situation, does it not? So, in true Umbral Mean style, we are going to start our next score in a desperate situation as to use the occult to hurt the Red Sashes. That's how we will start session 6. I think that's a good place to stop. That was a good downtime action. I love that we can spend 2 hours on downtime and really just do a lot of storytelling and fleshing out of the characters while we take care of things like, lowering heat and giving us more resources. It's something that I think Mr. Harper nailed when he put this all together. So we're going to be taking a little bit of a break here on the live streams for Third Floor Wars. We will be coming back, I believe, at the beginning of April. You'll start seeing both this Umbral Means crew come back, as well as our standard Good Scum and the Villainy Star Wars, and we're going to be adding an additional live stream with another one that I've been running. We're on session. Where are we, Roman, now? Session
like 15, 16.
Yeah. And we've been releasing them on the podcast, and unfortunately, I'm lucky. I've got a lot of episodes of the podcast, and I'm just not finding a place to release the next installments of this. So we're going to migrate this group off the podcast onto the live stream. So we're going to end up with 2 Star Wars live streams, as well as this Blades in the Dark live stream. Now, one thing that is very exciting is I'll be doing a second Blades in the Dark live stream with the 2 of the hosts of the Gaming and BS podcast. So if you listen to the Gaming and BS podcast, I've got both Brett and Sean coming on. I'm going to show them how to play this great game. We're going to try to repair Brett's relationship with Blades in the Dark. And get that put together. So we've got a lot coming in April as we take the rest of March off. PC Dart asks, when are you guys playing the Good Scum and the Villainy again? I think I actually have this in the calendar. Let me give you a quick date. So give me just a second. And it's in April. Oh, no, I lied to you. We have one more Good Scum and the Villainy. It's going to be next Sunday, the 21st. So we're going to be doing the Good, the Scum, and the Villainy at 2 o'clock Eastern next Sunday, the 21st. Yep. So I lied to you. We do have one more live stream before we take the last 2 weeks of March off. So we can look forward to that. All right. For everybody that stuck around and watched, we appreciate it. Make sure you're following us here on Twitch, liking and I know, big liar, Hunt PC Dart. And make sure you like and subscribe to the YouTube channel if you're watching the past recording on this. And I guess we'll see you guys in April.
Yes.
All right. Thanks so much. And those that watched the